Greetings, gathered friends. My name is OboeBot, and in 2002, Star Wars Episode II Attack of the Clones was released upon the world, and with it came the first ever Clone Trooper minifigs. They only came in small amounts in two very expensive sets, so even though building a LEGO clone army was every kid's dream, that dream would have to lie dormant for a few more years. In 2005, Revenge of the Sith came out, and with it came 6 new clones. While these guys were the coolest minifigures ever, all of them still came in small numbers bundled with large vehicle sets. So though a tiny collection of multicolored clones was now possible, the dream of an entire baseplate filled with identical troopers was still just out of reach. Finally, in 2007, LEGO struck gold by introducing the first 2 LEGO Star Wars battle packs. At long last, there was a kinda affordable way to amass a large amount of clones, androids, but mostly clones. The original battle pack clones do have a certain charm to them, but there's no denying that they look far more basic than what's on the market today. Kids these days, and also adults these days, have it so easy. They can just walk into any old Walmart and pick up a whole bunch of amazingly detailed clone minifigures. This incredible looking Captain Rex minifigure is only $13, and you get a free Naboo starfighter with it. 2000s era clones couldn't even dream of looking this good, but if you want to be a real nerd emoji about it, then this Captain Rex does still have some room for improvement. He could have included a cloth piece for the waist, and maybe should have had these pistols instead, and don't even get me started on the helmet holes controversy. Fortunately, if you truly must have a perfectly screen-accurate LEGO clone trooper, then the customs community has you covered. There's so many incredibly talented people making beautiful custom clone minifigs these days, but that wasn't always the case. Back when the first clone battle pack came out, the average kid's best option for a cool custom clone was still to scribble some Sharpie onto one of their minifigs. I know that most of my clone troopers fell victim to the dreaded Sharpie over the years, and today I'm going to take a look back at them to judge my past work and reminisce a bit about the early days of the online LEGO Star Wars community. The internet of the late 2000s was a much different experience than what we have today. For example, forums were still a thing, and there were tons of LEGO message boards scattered across the web. FineClonier was one of the premier LEGO minifig customization boards back in the day, but sadly, said forums are largely unpreserved by the Wayback Machine. So as much as I'd love to go back and look at all the iconic posts from the past, it's just not possible. And most of the early LEGO forums I used to frequent have suffered a similar fate. However, there is one forum that's miraculously still around. It hasn't been active for years, but the site is still up and all the old threads are still viewable. And so, it is my great pleasure to either introduce you to or remind you about the existence of the Clone Army Builders Guild. The Clone Army Builders Guild, abbreviated CABG or Cabbage, was founded in 2007 and was my go-to location for online LEGO Star Wars discussion for many years. I used to go on there practically every day, even if the mods were constantly banning my accounts for having bad grammar. As you can probably guess from the name, the forum was centered around all things related to LEGO clones. Some people focused more on building the biggest armies possible, while others were more interested in making highly detailed individual figures. The undisputed king of the early days of CABG was a user named OboeBot. His combination of Sharpies, paint, and printed decals provided an easy-to-replicate framework for people to use on their own clones. OboeBot was even generous enough to provide free decal templates on his Brickshelf gallery. Man, I can't believe Brickshelf is still up. I think it has gone down a few times in the past though, so has somebody archived Brickshelf yet? Because somebody definitely needs to archive Brickshelf before it goes the way of mock pages. Using OboeBot's templates and some rudimentary GIMP tutorial videos, I created this armor decal with red markings, the chosen color of my custom clone legion, which I named the 657th because there was another CABG user named 667th Legion, and I really liked their build, so I just copied them and changed one number. Very original stuff. My first attempt at making a custom clone was using a red Sharpie to turn a yellow commander guy into a red commander guy. This trooper is also sporting a custom skirt I made from regular old printer paper. I'm kinda shocked that it's held up this well over the years. He's also from an era before all clone trooper minifigures came with leg printing, so I had to Sharpie on some leg details myself, with mixed results. My next attempt used a red shock trooper as a starting point. I decided that a solid block of red on the legs looked better and was also easier to do, and it kinda matches the color blocking on his chest. His pauldron is just a orange sand trooper pauldron that I Sharpied red, which looks pretty good and covers up one of his very smudged arms. OboeBot recommended using a clear coat sealant many times, but I ignored his suggestion because that was too much work, and my trooper's arms have certainly paid the price over the years. In 2008, the first ever Stormtrooper battle pack released, and it was kinda cool, but I wanted a clone army, not a Stormtrooper army. I'd seen a video by Michael MGF where he made a Stormtrooper helmet into an airborne clone helmet using a Sharpie, so I gave it a go myself, and the results were Mine did not end up looking as good as his. The only reason I even attempted this was because in 2008, OboeBot posted this amazing looking airborne trooper, and of course I had to try making one of my own. I don't know if OboeBot made that helmet himself or if he purchased it from somebody like Aerialite. Aerialite was one of the earliest people to start selling custom molded LEGO Star Wars pieces. Their custom clone helmets were the gold standard back in 2008, as they offered many designs that LEGO had yet to produce. People on CABG were big fans, and I'm delighted to report that Aerialite is still around today and still making custom clone helmets, which is great to see. The Stormtrooper Battle Pack also introduced this awesome Shadow Trooper, and I decided to make him even more awesome with some custom decals. I have scoured the web looking for the source of these decals because I didn't make these. I ordered them from somewhere, but sadly I could not find where they came from. They might be from FineClonier or Saber Scorpion, cause I for sure ordered from both of those sites at some point. Man, Saber Scorpion rules. I also don't remember where I got this custom black snowtrooper helmet from. I'm pretty sure I ordered it from a Bricklink store because I remember my mom being extremely skeptical of entering her payment information into 2008 Bricklink, which I mean was fair. Bricklink did kinda look like a scam, and also kinda still does. That being said though, they better never get rid of the old Bricklink UI. If I wanted to use the crappy modernized UI, I would just go on Brickowl, and nobody goes on Brickowl. In 2009, LEGO released new battle packs based on the Clone Wars TV show. The droid one kinda sucked, but the clone one was top tier. It included a pilot guy and 3 standard guys that you could easily customize with the included accessories pack. And customize I did. Using my OboeBot decals and red Sharpies, I settled on this design as the standard look of a 657th Legion clone trooper. The decals were inkjet printed onto label paper and then cut out and applied to the torsos. You can see that my printer's colors and resolution weren't quite good enough, but that didn't matter because my clones now looked awesome. They would have looked even more awesome with some custom blasters like the ones available from Little Arm Shop. They were one of the first producers of custom LEGO guns, and at the time, these were the most accurate blasters available. The ultimate fate of Little Arm Shop is a bit fuzzy, as I had to dig through some 15-year-old internet drama to find it. Take this with a grain of salt, but it would appear that Little Arm Shop was a reseller or recaster or something of a store called Little Armory, and Little Armory was the one that came up with the original designs. Somewhere along the line, there was some bad blood between the two stores, and since then their products have become harder to find. Both brand names still pop up on various reseller storefronts from time to time, so they're still out there if you want some. Other companies like Brick Arms have since begun producing their own Star Wars blasters, and these newer designs are much more detailed. But to be honest, I kinda prefer the more simplistic look of the early Little Armory stuff. Modern customs tend to try to closely replicate the movie props, but the Little Armory designs look more like what would happen if the design language behind the LEGO Western firearms was then applied to Star Wars guns. And I find that simple aesthetic a lot more endearing. Not to say I hate Brick Arms are awesome. For example, I think they nailed the pulse rifle from Alien and the RoboCop pistol on their first try. I used the RoboCop pistol as a stand-in for the Republic Commando pistol on my custom Republic Commando figure. A little bit of Dremel and sandpaper action removed the top fin from his helmet and left me with a figure that I'm still proud of to this day. For 15 years ago OboeBot, this is not bad. Speaking of commandos, I took inspiration from Sev when creating this monstrosity. I took advantage of the fact that Sharpie can be rubbed off of plastic to give his helmet a covered in blood effect. And then I also made his whole body red too.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
The only other clones that could rival Republic Commandos in terms of how awesome they were of course ARC Troopers. The 2003 Clone Wars cartoon portrayed them as the ultimate droid killing machines, and the 2009 Clone Troopers Battle Pack accessories kit just begged you to create your own. So I made this blue guy, who was inspired by Captain Rex, though I did make a few changes, like adding some asymmetry to his armor markings. I love how I only put a blue stripe on half of his skirt. Something about that is just hilarious to me. Like, this guy is extremely dedicated to the asymmetry, but he had to custom order that skirt. Finally, we have what what might be my favorite LEGO Star Wars minifig ever, my custom red ARC Trooper. I made the blue guy first and didn't have any more black accessories, so I just used a black Sharpie on some gray ones for the red guy. Over time, the black Sharpie has faded, which has given this guy a really scratched up, heavily worn aesthetic that I think looks great. When I look at this trooper, I remember all the epic battles and adventures he went on, but I also remember the early days of the online LEGO Star Wars community. It really was an amazing hotbed of creativity, especially here on YouTube. The three channels I remember most are Pizza Movies and his 501st Legion series, Spagezdu's Squad 42 series, and the LEGO Boys 181st Legion series. These films were inspirational to an entire generation of early YouTube users. Me and a friend even had the genius idea of doing Plinkett-style commentary tracks over some of them. We thought we were hilarious at the time, but in retrospect, we were clearly just cyberbullying. We were very obviously just jealous of everybody's giant clone armies and had to make fun of them to feel better about ourselves. Thankfully, we quickly realized our videos were cringe and took them down, but if any of you guys are watching this and remember when Top Rate Reviews made fun of you, yeah, sorry about that. That was not cool, my bad. Some of those commentary videos did do numbers, though. I think one of them had like 30,000 views, which for early YouTube was pretty good. And that mild dose of early success was all it took for me to dedicate the entire rest of my life to YouTube. Pizza Movies was last active 4 years ago, so hopefully he's still alive. Spagezdu went on to work in the British TV and film industry, and the LEGO Boy is now the quite successful channel Solid Brick Studios. And here I am today, still making YouTube videos, and I absolutely would not be here if it were not for the influence of those early brick films. If you, like me, are old enough to remember when those videos first came out, you might be thinking that this video has a glaring omission. Like, this guy really made a whole video about custom clones and didn't mention the most famous website? How could he possibly forget about MMCB? Wait, no, actually, how could he possibly forget about Clone Army Customs? Well, dear viewer, what if I told you that Clone Army Customs has been here the whole time? That's right, What's Up Bob from CABG is Clone Army Customs. What's Up Bob used to be very active on CABG, and one of his most popular threads was the Clone Army Customs sneak peek thread where he posted previews of his upcoming figures. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Clone Army Customs was, to my knowledge, the first online storefront that sold fully customized clones. They had a wide selection of handmade figures for sale, and each year their inventory and their quality increased greatly. Over the years, the business has steadily grown from its humble beginnings on internet message boards into a truly impressive operation. They have a nice warehouse with thousands of custom parts, and they even have a physical storefront that I'd love to visit someday. I'd especially like to see if they still have any of the old original clone troopers from the CABG days kicking around in their warehouse somewhere. In 2008, What's Up Bob made this guy, which he dubbed the official trooper of the CABG. I've often wondered if this figure still exists out there somewhere, or if he, like so many forum posts before him, have been lost to the sands of time. But even if he is gone, this gif of him slowly spinning around will always remind me of the good old days of the CABG. To Thunderblade, Zephyr, CC007, Darth Yoda, Darth Pineapple, What's Up Bob, and all the other members of the CABG, thanks for the memories, and I hope you all are doing well these days. The same thanks goes out to all the early pioneers of LEGO YouTube. Pizza Movies 501st Legion, Spagezdu's Squad 42, and LEGO Boys 181st Legion are just as meaningful to me as any piece of official Star Wars media. And finally, thanks to you for watching this whole video. This was supposed to just be a quick video where I review my old Sharpie clones, but the more I looked at them, the more memories came flooding back, and when I found out that CABG was still up, I knew I had to talk about it in a video, so I hope I've done a decent job of chronicling that chapter of the LEGO Star Wars community. This is all just coming from my limited perspective and ancient memories though, so if you have any information or memories of your own about the early era of custom clones, then please leave a comment. I'd love to read what you have to say. Until next time, my name is OboeBot, and I'll see you on the forums.